Eurosport Live.
There's a determined bit of bike riding by Gouvenou, who really last year had to get that World Championship jersey around his shoulders. He had a disappointing year. He pulled third place in the Tour de France, disappointing, but he didn't really come up to what he hoped to do. It was win the Tour last year, and this year now he's already showing that championship jersey, and he's in fine form. Leading this chasing group up, they've just come out the top of that climb, and just some, 4 or 5 kilometres away, they'll hit another one. Cars parked at both sides of the road so the spectators can come out here, and it's quite remarkable to see the Belgian spectators come out to bike races. By the way, you get ladies in high heel shoes and the best frocks, and I suppose frocks are old fashioned, but still the best dresses, and wearing their Sunday best to come out and watch the race, and they pile back into cars and drive to another point to see the race go through. It's they just like to see the giants of the road before their very eyes, and some of them who are in the villages watch it go through, nip back inside, because BRT, our Belgian associates, are as ever putting up some superb pictures of bike racing. Got some great camera and great idea, great understanding of the sport, and so people at home can watch them. See how this is, the riders clipping past our cameraman. All the noise. There we are, 151, that's the leader's jersey. He's just won 3 back from the front. Quick view of Maurizio Fondriest. I've been searching for him, and now we see him. He's not far off the front. The Lampre rider, Maurizio Fondriest, ex-world champion and World Cup winner a couple of years ago, is doing the right thing. He's sitting near the front, and they've opened up a little gap here. And our 3 breakaway riders now down to 2, and the gap quite bridgeable. This is dangerous. This is a tidy little group, and with people like Gouvenou and Fondriest, there's enough here if they really decide to open up the wick. And yet Museeuw is in there as well. This is a cracking group. What a group of riders we got here today. And yes, it looks like Van Hooydonk's also made it across to this little group at the front, and that is a sizable gap they've opened up, and they just sort of drifted off the front, chasing up that long steady climb, and the steering pace has been enough to split the field, and this could in fact be the real move of the day. There's almost just enough riders, not too many, to keep this one going if they're all prepared to play the part. Certainly someone like Lance Armstrong in there for Motorola is a sort of chap who really has no respect to reputations, and there Museeuw, hot tip to win. He's going to put the pressure on to as well for GBMG, and Museeuw's got at least 1 if not 2 of his teammates behind, and that's where the consternation will be setting in now. Who's going to chase this one down? Well, TVM looks like Tristan Hoffman down there as well for Telekom. Let's see what's going to happen. Well, that's going to be a cracking break. Unfortunately, we've got to take a short break, so do come back and let's see what happens in just a couple of moments. And as you rejoin us, the Bossenberg, the climb that these riders have really started to split the field on, is probably going to be the crucial part of the race. We've now covered some 178 kilometres of the 261 to be covered. And I think right now those who are not in either this little group or the chasing one behind have probably got to take the shortcut home, because the speed has gone up, and the top boys are in this front group. I say top boys, there's Museeuw there, there's Gouvenou there, Fondriest is there. There are one or two others. We'll pick them up as we go back down there to identify these riders for you. But this looks very significant to me. It's the old war of attrition on this race, and one by one they drop off, and then they take the shortcut home, some of them, heading back in towards Ghent. In fact, I'm pretty certain this was the race a couple of years ago when Yates got blown out. That's what he was, and knowing there's so many British spectators out on the course, he found an intricate route back home that took him nowhere near the race, because he didn't want to be seen riding back to his his digs or his headquarters. They were them up in Belgium. But Sean, the last we saw, well, there's a rundown. Bontempi, Ballerini is another one. Cipollini, Museeuw, Bunyo, let's see who else is in there. Sciandri, oh, there's a cracking lot. Even Le Mans made it. Well, that's a turn up for the books, isn't it? Abdoujaparov is in there too. So at long last, looks like Greg LeMond is going to show something of what he's made of. But undoubtedly, a nice little group. Oh, the chasing group might well come back though. Can you see that? The second cameraman providing a bit of a stepping stone, I think, for these riders. And there's Yates, Sean Yates in this little group. This is group number 2 coming on behind, trying to pull back that front group. So they have a good chance, by the way. It looks to me as if they just keep rolling along, they should be okay there. And that was Frans Maassen, another man tipped as being, yes, they're coming back at them. I thought that was going to happen. Yep, they're back. But that is a bit less than 50 riders. What's the next group? Now then, they don't look quite so keen. But that group is probably too unwieldy. Yeah, I still think, yeah, as I said, just under 40, I wasn't far up on the 36, and Bunyo's still there. Van Hooydonck just coming up behind him now. This war of attrition as they get riders going off the back rather than off the front. This is where the strongmen really begin to ride tempo all the way through. Maassen's up there. See, that's a great move by Maassen. We saw him coming up with that second group. Just got across straight up to Van Hooydonck. He's got to ride really for Van Hooydonck today. Maassen, who could, if Van Hooydonck cracked, perhaps go off and do his own thing. But I suggest that Jan Raas's tactics are to give Van Hooydonck every assistance possible. Frans Maassen, previous champion of Holland, and a great all-rounder rider too. In fact, he took the lead in the World Cup 2 years ago, if I remember correctly. And one of those riders that burst on the scene when that little group of 4 riders went away in the Tour de France, what would be 3 years ago now, when an unknown Chiappucci went off with Bauer and Pansek and Maassen, the 4 of them, which managed, all bar Maassen, managed to get the yellow jersey out of that group that day. By the way, a bit of news about Steve Bauer. He tried to ride today for the Motorola team, but as he wasn't part of the original 10 put in, he wasn't allowed to. He's ridden the Grand Prix Hooydonck, and he's riding next week in the Paris-Roubaix on a bicycle that's been specially designed. There goes Yates. He's been specially designed for the Paris-Roubaix. And of course, Bauer, who has got a tremendous success rate in the Paris-Roubaix, has been drafted into the Motorola team just on a short-term contract to see if he can do something in the Paris-Roubaix. Another rider in the field today, which we haven't yet seen on our camera, who's been drafted in, has been Dag-Otto Lauritzen, who's 36 years of age now. We take a long look down there. Dag-Otto Lauritzen, riding for the TVM team, is on one of the Norsk Hydro frame bicycles made of magnesium. That's a Kirk frame that's made in Saffron Walden in Great Britain, and Norsk Hydro have paid his contract, so he's riding for TVM for free, if you know what I mean. It's Norsk Hydro, who are a Norwegian team, and Hydro are the people that produce the magnesium which the frame is made from. And they've got Dag-Otto Lauritzen back in the racing scene now. He was 3rd in this race in 1989, and Dag-Otto Lauritzen, riding on the Kirk-type bicycle, is in there mainly, of course, because the World Championships are taking place in Norway this year, and I think the Norwegian Federation decided that they ought to have a pro in with a shout, and that whilst they've got some other good riders, Dag-Otto Lauritzen undoubtedly is the most experienced one they've got, and so Norsk Hydro, who've got a few bob, I can tell you, have found it in their way. And I think it's not only just the money, it's the attitude which is good. There goes Sean again. I think that Norsk Hydro, that big company, is prepared to assist and get Dag-Otto Lauritzen back in the field, and it's been repaid, by the way, as these two slip off the front. Hello. If they got it right or wrong, because that's not Anderson up the front there, that's Yates, unless the camera's picking up something I haven't got on site. I've been rabbiting on about Dag-Otto Lauritzen. Actually, he actually got some success last week. He won a stage, the first stage, in the 3 days of Depin. So their investment already beginning to pay off, as Yates here ploughing away with Goven. For some reason they stuck up Anderson. I don't quite know I suppose just because they speak the same language, sort of. Actually, Phil doesn't live too far away from, I'm going to look at my map now, in a place called Waregem, and we came through Waregem after some, 104 kilometres being covered, and so went very close to Phil's home. He's not had too good a season at the moment. Phil Anderson hasn't started too well, but that's what the problems, by the way, sickness in teams. The Wordperfect team had far too many problems early on. Here we are looking at Frans Maassen at the front of this one, and Yates is away here. Now they got it right now, Verhoeven and Yates. Nice to see the Union Jack flying there. Our little suit Sean, if he's on form, he really over this sort of terrain, these short sharp hills, he can hammer his way over them. I'm just a bit concerned about the tactics Motorola, because Lance Armstrong not far behind. This is a stepping stone as far as they're concerned, or just one of those attempts on the outer side, out of mind part, because the riders, when they train around this course, I think, right, if I'm with the leading group at this particular part, I'm going to work myself through, and then I'll launch an attack. And lots of them know exactly where to go, and the Belgians particularly know every pothole of the course. And here we are then, 600 metres. That shouldn't worry Sean too much. Big, powerful fella. Pursuit as well. I mean, he's got that sort of speed in his legs too. As pursuit champion of Great Britain, turned professional when just around that time of the Moscow Olympic Games, and here he is now. Had a reputation for being a strong man in doing an enormous number of press-ups, and has an enormous appetite. At one time was somewhat overweight, but he's slimmed down a bit now. Got himself married during the winter, so he's joined up with people like Capucci and Indurain, who all got themselves wed. And here there's a chasing group, possibly at the moment wondering what they've got to do, and is it worthwhile chasing down those two. Still a lot of good people. Here's Cipollini just behind Museeuw. Rolling up the gears here, and the job for Tchmil here is to keep the pace of very, very powerful. He's rolling quite a big gear, Andrew Tchmil. One of those riders who forsook an amateur career from behind the Iron Curtain to quickly go into the pro ranks, and has been quite a good find as far as the GBMG team is concerned. Well, that'll slow the chasers down just a bit. Nothing like a bit of gunge on the side of the road to break the rhythm. And they're round it very gingerly. Oops, Sean Yates not holding the pace. He's getting back, so perhaps that was just a little bit of momentary hiccup as they came around that corner. See the state of the road here. I know some bike races in England, if we tried to take a race up road like this, the front of the riders would just object. It does remind me of the days when they had the Quaker Oats race many years ago. Chas Messenger and, the other name will come back to him, and it used to organise races. Unless there was some green grass growing up the centre of the road, they didn't think they'd actually had a decent race. They'd find routes over in Wales and so on, that, where there's plenty of green grass growing up the centre of the road, which certainly stretched the legs a bit. This really is a pretty tricky part of the course, isn't it? And of course the riders, as it will be next week when we're covering the Paris-Roubaix, all of them hoping that they don't have any punctures. Today's modern technology, the tyres that they're riding on, most of them, well, many of them now going on these what we call clincher tyres, not the Soaps, not the one with the inner tube stitched inside the outer casing. They're said to be slightly less prevalent to puncture. See those spectators again on the skyline running out, that's to get in their cars and cut back across to the next vantage point. But something tells me that this little group's going to come together. Very, very fast descent here by Nico Verhoeven and Cameron nips in quickly to get a speed of, it's just over 60 kilometers per hour, so he's close up to 40 miles an hour at the moment on this part of the course. And the field behind have got him clearly in sight, and they're beginning to regroup. So I think that Nico probably, you know, that just shows you the sign how far they've got to the next climb, and perhaps he's going to stick at it in the hope that the chasers will let him have a bit more glory, and perhaps somebody will come across to him. Yates, I think, has done the right thing by sliding back into the group, and left him on his own. There we are. There he is, and that's some of his performances over the years. More of a domestique, really. He's had quite a bit of success in his time, but right now I think he's trying this one on. Here by the Eichenberg, and this climb then, look at my little list here, the 9th climb of the 16 climbs they've got, and 130 metres. I'm having a look at my little list to see how much of it, and 1,200 metres of it by these cobbles. So this really is going to be the time when they think they've been riding the pneumatic drills. They bounce up this particular lot. Again, the riders searching for that smoothest bit of the road they could possibly find. Now, if they put the hammer down this little lot, we saw those chasing groups trying to come up to them. I think somehow that might make it rather difficult. And after this one, having a quick look to see what we've got yet to come. Eichenberg, the next time of Hochenberg is at 185 kilometres, so we've still got about 3 kilometres to go. This is good because they're pretty close together, and a long cobble climb, 1,200 metres, is sufficient, I think, to break up the rhythm of the chasers behind. Still Verhoeven on the front. Bunch coming back to him though. Now, they don't look too concerned at the back, do they? Yeah, it looks like his moment of glory about to be over. And there they are, they've got him back. And that man Maassen doing a lot of the work, rolling up at the front, just keeping it close, and about 3 or 4 back behind him is the tall, lanky figure of Van Hooydonck, one of the tallest men in the race. About 6'3" and a bit. Museeuw still sitting in there too. Well, there's some good useful riders here. He's got some good company too, Museeuw. Not about that's Ballerini we just saw there for the GBMG team, number 32. Looking back down there, see the black, yellow and red jersey, that's the GBMGB rider Museeuw, lying 3rd in line. Then if you go back 4th into 5th place, the white jersey, that's Ballerini, who really sort of burst on the scenes when he won the Grand Prix of Montreal a couple of years ago. And he's in extremely fine form at the moment, and he's just keeping his eye on Museeuw, because Museeuw will be there with the chance to win. Actually, they've got so many good riders in the GBMG team that they openly admit that between them they take it in turns, and whoever seems strongest at the moment they allow it. They don't have like one team leader. Either Cipollini, Museeuw or Ballerini, any of those can actually take over on the day and have a go at winning a race. Oh, the crowd really have pushed out on the road here, haven't they? Yeah, I thought Maassen wouldn't want to stay too long on the front if he was getting a bit of shot off the motorbike. Now, I hope we go back up to our helicopter to get a good top shot of this one, because the groups are coming together until we hit that climb then. There's not far, there's only about 3 kilometres to the next one to come up, the Valkenburg, and so Cipollini's still there as well with Museeuw and Ballerini, so GBMG quite happy with that one. Bunyo's got across too, he's still in contention. I think I saw Fondriest in the white jersey as well. Monitor screens aren't always that clear, I can tell you. It's when you sit at home, sometimes I see some of the pictures later and I think, gosh, I wish I've got a picture like that to look at. You've got paint all over the place, you've got noise going on, you've got not particularly easy vision on your monitor screen. We do the best we can. Wordperfect really giving some stick, aren't they? It's Van Hooydonck that's gone to the front now. Maassen's been doing the powering along, and he's dropped off the pace a little bit. I think that's Marc Sergeant on the front. I'll have to have another check on this one. Jan Raas's riders are doing a great job here, aren't they? Note the word perfect. It's all in one word with a P, a capital P in the middle. They are one of these computer people in the software business. And evidently, since the team's been doing quite well, they're spread all over the world. They're one of the biggest companies. I'm sure that many of the people watching this program, those who work in offices on computers, know the name very well indeed. And evidently it's captured the imagination of the staff across the world. They're now getting a word-perfect cycling fan club sorted out, and they're watching and following all their team does. So sponsorship does many things. Apart from getting your brand name across on the screen, it can also give your workforce something to talk about and an interest factor other than just turning up and grafting away at the day's activity. So well, then it's Ekimov on the front as far as Histor Sigma is concerned, and again, Histor Sigma, that was a Freudian slip, wasn't it? Histor Laser now, sorry Mr. Laser, who is another computer company, by the way, so that used to be called Histor Sigma many years ago, and the Laser people stepped in to co-sponsor Peeters' team for the back end of last year. And I think I told you once before, Fred Racker, the Dutch commentator, a very good friend of mine and a friend of Peter Poss, was the one who made the introduction to get the Laser people in, and so it's Histor Laser is the name of the team that used to be the old Panasonic, and before that the rally team. And the pressmen fight their way through. Yeah, Bueno's still on the left-hand side. I think that's Sorensen in the middle too for Castorama. We'll have to have a little look at the moment. So he's Carrera, but that's a Castorama rider, and I'm looking back to see where the career jersey got to, because Sorensen was tipped by Alan Piper's being in with a shout today. And look at Bueno, relaxed, sitting back, rolling this knock along. Well, that group, yes, the Fondriest is down there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's probably about 10th from the front. The reigning World Cup leader, as it will be, because we only had one event so far, the Milan San Remo. And having won that one, taking on the white jersey. Well, those 40-man group will have to wait for the next climb, I think. Yes, Bueno's still powering along here. Makes it look so effortless, doesn't he? Not lying about either. See, the 61 shows that he's sort of leader of the team. 71, Ekimov, leader of that team there, and that's the numbers that you can see as they go through. Brochard it was for Castorama, and yeah, Nelson in there. He's also right. There's Fondriest. You see with the pinky stripe, the Lampre colours and the white top. So if you want to look down through the galaxy of colour and you're trying to find the leader, then look just for a white jersey, and then look for his shorts with the pinky stripe on them, the Lampre colours, and then also look in there for more pink jerseys that could be helping defend his position. And I can't see too many at the moment. Oh, nice shot. See how the chains snagging and jumping? See the chains, how they bounce up and down? The gear's having to really work hard here. Riding mainly on 8 sprockets now at the back, 2 at the front, giving him 16 gears. See where you put your hands in the centre, so the vibration, you just use your elbows to take up the shock. And with the brakes and gear mechanism all in one now, so you can actually change gear and keep pedalling and braking all at the same time. Modern technology. Oh, shouting going on. There he is. As Fondriest going through. Well, this is a cracking group of riders at the moment. Looking at Sean Yates, who was one of the activators that began to help split this group up. Still in the midst of this pack of something like 39 riders now. Thank you, I need my nose wiping. And the field just breaking round, and still Bunyo doing the right thing at the front. The world champion, been up there. About 4 or 5 back from him is Maurizio Fondriest, the leader in the World Cup, and some other useful, interesting riders in that group as well at the moment. Spotted very quickly number 116 at Sciandri, the rider for the Motorola team, born in Derby, and a very, very strong rider indeed. As at the back here, it looks as if Wordperfect have got even more support. A nice view from the tail end Charlies of this this group of riders here. Now you can see what they have to do just to stay close, stay in contention, and just hope that no split comes up in front of you. This is your back end view. They've made it now because the gap, the last we heard, was something approaching about 40 seconds, so it could be that the little group behind might well have to say this race is now over just for this this pack up in front of something like about 39 or so riders. So there we are then, having a quick look down that little group of riders as they're working their way through. Greg LeMond's in that 137, 135 also in there at the moment for the GAN team, and that was Gouvenou. So the GAN, LeMond has, I think, shown probably better than he's shown for some time now to stay in that 40-man group. So for the LeMond supporters, nice to see that Greg is in there. And if you look at the GAN jerseys, they're very white with the word GAN on them. Let's see if we go back along here now. That's Brochard of Castorama. They're whizzing through a bit too quick. Slow down, Mr. Man. We'll see if we can pick up the GAN jersey. Well, he's in there somewhere anyway. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, perhaps we might have a chance to pick up Greg LeMond, who's in this group now, getting in to some way towards the finish. Well, the riders here, this breakaway group, enjoying the sunshine on their backs in this, the Tour of Flanders, the 77th, and it's the second in the World Cup rounds. Quick look there at the GAN colours, number 135, that was Thierry Gouvenou for GAN. He's got his teammate in there too, Greg LeMond. So Greg looks like he's finding some form, just the right time. Nice to see if Greg could get himself up on the podium in a classic, just to show the world that he's back with a bit of a bang. He's in there in those GAN colours. There's Sue is in the centre. Gianni Bonio, who's done a lot of damage at the front, winding this one up. Red, white and blue colours, Tristan Hoffman, the national champion for Holland. Our national champion of Great Britain, Sean Yates, is still in there. The world champion, Bunyo's in there. The Belgian champion, Museeuw. And this is a GBMG boy train, by the way. Look, 1, 2, 3 of them here. As we pan back at the moment, that's the long-legged rider just easing himself away at the front, number 38. And that is Willems in there at the moment, together with Peeters, the two of them, and there Museeuw is also there. So 3 of the GBMG, then 2 of the Wordperfect team, then Brochard for Castorama, then Gouvenou for the GAN team, and further back there's Sean Yates for Motorola. He's also got Sciandri in there as well. Lampre jerseys in this little group, and I'm just looking to see where Fondriest has got to. There's the world champion going through, and missed him. Well, I'm pretty sure he'd be there because he was a bit further back, but the GBMG have decided this is the one they're going to slaughter the opposition. This is decimation time. Sit back and grimace and enjoy it. Professional bike riders at work, battling across the field of Flanders yet again. This epic Tour of Flanders. And all the practicing they've been putting in on this course now begin to pay off as far as the team is concerned. They've been out there going around. The fact that Johan Museeuw had that cold, he went home and he went and he had some eucalyptus inhalation. Now, that's him on the right hand side there. Seems to have done his chest the world of good, and he's breathing quite freely now. I'm not quite sure he's riding the same bike he's going to ride in the Paris-Roubaix. He's been testing it out. He's got a new bike built for the Paris-Roubaix, which has a lot more cobbles that are a lot more worse than this lot, believe you me, and that's next week. But he's looking very good at the moment, and in good company the rest of his team here. And that Wolfie Peeters just on the front, and the long, tall figure, Edwig van Hooydonck, moving through. Now the team cars are up, so that's got to be, as I said, last check we had was something like a 40-second lead, so I should think it's probably getting closer to a minute now. They're beginning to put quite a number of team cars between this group and the field, the chasers behind. Oh, something whipping across the corner there. There's that before. It looked like the longest way around to me. It's certainly a lot smoother than riding on the pavé, but it looked like a longer way to go. He bounced out and clipped across the toes of the general public. And again, the stretch going on from... whoops! They've had to park the cars on the pavement, and the riders are trying to mow down the spectators too. And they forced the pace. It certainly had an effect. It split it up a bit, and Johan Maurizio it is. I thought I steer colours for a minute. Maurizio, who whipped across there, and really they sorted this little lot out. See the tricky way they bounce the bikes over the pavement, over the curbs and back on again. And all this at around about 25 to 30 miles an hour. Yeah, there's the colours of the white jersey of the leader of the World Cup, Fondriest. He's just behind this little group of four. Museeuw flicking again onto the pavement. That's Fondriest, lying, what, sixth in that line. If something happens to Farmgate, they turn straight right and end up in somebody's field by the looks of it. The public, having got a good knowledge of bike racing, have retired their gardens at the moment and standing well back, weren't they? Don't blame them. And this lot clipping past Maassen. There he is. That's our leader in the World Cup and determined to stay in contention. There are 50 points for the winner today, 35 for second, 25 points for third, and right there down to the 12th place man who gets 5 points in the final stages of this race, right the way through to the finish. And so you can now wait with bated breath to see what's going to happen with this race, because it's unfolding very well indeed. And the question will be not only who's going to win it, but will Fondriest keep his leader's jersey. Do join us then after the tennis, and we're back with more action from the Tour of Flanders. Myself, David Duffield, time to say bye-bye to you all. The riders hammering away across the not-so-flat lands of southern Belgium. The rough, tough circuit ahead of them. They've got some 50-odd kilometres to go as they curl their way round in almost like a complete full circuit round Ghent as the hub of this race. It is a classic, believe you me, and what some racing we've had so far. That gives you some idea where they are down country now in the up and down bits of the race. I'm David Duffield and welcome to this tremendous event with Maurizio Fondriest wearing the white jersey of the leader in the World Cup so far. You saw him flash across your screens there because he is with this group here who are desperately trying to stay away of some 40 riders who set this race alight. Early on there was nothing much to happen as the race wound its way across the north part of this big circuit, and it's a big long flat loop round towards Waregem, and then the whole thing started to blow apart at the seams. And as you'd expect, some of the tough men here, by war of attrition, have worked their way to the front. Congratulations go out to Sean Yates, who rode very hard for the Motorola team, and he's managed to get one of his teammates up here into this breakaway group. We're looking at now, there we are, that's him, Maximilian Sciandri, who won the Kellogg's Pro Tour of Britain last year. And here, Edwig van Hooydonck. Edwig van Hooydonck, twice winner of the Tour of Flanders, is in this breakaway group too. But the GBMG boys really have dominated this race so far, because there we see Ballerini taking some sustenance off his team car and moving through. And in this group at the moment also is Johan Maurizio, because he, the champion of Belgium, riding for the GBMG team, is strong and has been tipped as a likely winner. There, if you look down, that yellow and blue jersey is one man who really has found himself amongst a very esoteric group of riders, and quite a surprise performance it is too to see him there. But we wish him the best of luck amongst this little group here as they head in towards the finish, because that young rider, Bottaro of the Mecair team, is probably the oddball in this group. This is almost the who's who of hard men in cycle racing. Earlier on today we saw that Gianni Pugna was up in a group of some 40-odd riders that began to split the field as they head up here towards the Molenberg. Again, another of these cobbled climbs that really are strengthening, and they've now covered 210 kilometers in this race. There are just 3 more big climbs yet to come ahead of this one. The Flanders, the Meerbeke and the Bosberg, before they then flatten out and go in toward the finish. This has to be the group from which the winner will come. The war of attrition that's gone on so far in the previous 12 climbs up to Leberg, where this little group got away, has sorted the wheat from the chaff, and a lot of people now are turning back and heading in to their hotels at the start area, because some of them have tried so hard but they just can't stand the pace, particularly the Wordperfect riders here. In front, Edwig van Hooydonck. He has been there all day long, near the front, driving hard and setting the pace, which has caused this little group to go away. Also with him on the right-hand side, Frans Maassen from the Wordperfect team too. This is Ballerini that you see working his way through for the GBMG boys, just behind Edwig van Hooydonck. He's working hard because Johan Museeuw has been tipped very much as being the winner of this race. But Johan Museeuw, further back down, must be wondering if the cold he had last week, which caused him to retire from the 3 days of Japan, will in fact sap his strength as we go in towards the back end of this race. Let's see if we're going to have a quick picture of him. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 back from the front in the black, yellow and red colours, the Belgian national championship jersey on the shoulders of Johan Museeuw. Well, he's something like 25 years of age, I suppose, and no stranger to British racing cyclist, winner of a stage in the Kellogg's Pro Tour, which, if memory serves me correct, was at Lincoln when he hammered in there across the newly laid shopping precinct road to win that stage. There he is, the black, yellow and red colours of the Belgian national champion. There in the white colour with that rainbow stripe running down the right shoulder with Lampre on the back, and number 51 is Maurizio Fondriest, the winner of the Milan-San Remo, the first round in this, the World Cup. And this is the oddball. This is the fellow who's hand up now. I don't know if his team cars come up to him. He's probably having to talk to the service vehicle, because Mecair are probably surprised to find him here. He's really domestic to Marino Argentin, who was supposed to be in with a shout for this race, because Argentin loves the hard races up in Belgium. Argentin winner of this race in 1990, hasn't made this select group at the front, and looking at my notes here to see what the gap is, it's got to be something over 1 minute lead that they've got now back to the group of something like 30 riders who got away from the main field. Good to see Greg LeMond, by the way, in that chasing group of 30. He's showing some sign of form coming back, and was in there with Gouvenou, his teammate, but they missed the selection, as they call it. But these riders, there we are, 2 minutes and 1 second. In fact, the gap's grown quite a bit. De Klerk on his own, the Lotto rider, out there trying to get some prestige and coverage for his team. Lotto sponsored in this race by the Belgian telephone company as well, and they've changed the colours of the jerseys to cause confusion for commentators who come along with a whole set of notes just to cover that the things have changed somewhat. No change there in the colours of Motorola 116, except at the end of this year they're going, unfortunately, to call it a halt. So Motorola will no longer be with the racing teams at the end of this year. Great shame, really. They've had quite a good length of success. Wordperfect, the new team that was formed out of the old team that Jan Rafeland ran last year for the Buckler squad. Got 2 men in this break, and here the historic rider Max Sajon. He undoubtedly has the greatest list of performances in this race. He's finished 6 times in the top 10. This is about his 12th race that he's 12th time he's ridden this race, so his knowledge undoubtedly in these final few kilometers is going to stand him in good stead. But has he got the legs to hang on to this group? We'll have to wait and see. Museeuw looking very strong despite that touch of a cold and vast quantities of eucalyptus he had to inhale to clear his chest. That was his treatment last week to get himself back in order. Oh, stretching the legs. Well, they've been going now for, what's some 210 kilometres or so. They're going to spend the thick end of 7 hours in the saddle, these riders. And it's not one of those straight out races by any means. You can see the conditions they're riding under now. New modern pavé, twisting and turning. And we've been really through what is nothing better than farmyards back down the road. There was mud everywhere, there were narrow tracks, and there was grass up the centre of the roads. And these riders have fought their way across some of the most difficult racing country in this, the 77th edition of the Tour of Flanders. So Frans Maassen helping himself to some more drinks from the team car. And moving through again, no stranger, Frans Maassen, to British viewers, and please those who are listening in Europe to my commentary, forgive me if I refer from time to time to the Great Britain interest in this race, because Frans Maassen it was that won the Wincanton race up there in Newcastle when we had our first of the Wincanton series, and he's in this little break at the moment with Van Hooydonck, twice winner of the Tour of Flanders. There he is, that's Edwig Van Hooydonck. Has been doing so much work at the moment, going back for a drink, and I think he damn well deserves it too. The Wordperfect team manager, they've got the assistant team manager there at the moment. Their team manager normally, Jan Raas, won this race in 1979 and again in 1983, and there we are, a rundown on that list of riders. But look at the number of Italians, the green, white and red, Ballerini, Sciandri, Fondriest, Bottaro, against 3 Belgians and one of the Dutch riders as well. Capiot coming up to have a chat with Sciandri, who's down on our charts as an Italian, but of course he was born in Derby in Great Britain, so we have a vested interest in him, and of course he was winner last year of the Kellogg's Pro Tour as well. So there'll be interesting tactics here. The 2 of the Wordperfect riders, but and 2 from the GBMG boys. The rest are all on their own, and I think the chasers now must have given up the ghost. The last check we had well over 2 minutes, so we're not going to have much chance to go back and see what they're up to. And interest from now to finish must centre on this little group of riders here who've survived the war of attrition. And troubles up front. That's the second time he's had his hand up. He's not trying to leave the room. He wants somebody to come up to him. I can't see at the moment. It doesn't seem he's got anything wrong with his bike. Edwig Van Hooydonck earlier in this race was in trouble. He put his hand up when we were thundering through the earlier climbs of the day. They hit the first climb up the Tchmil after some 121 kilometres had been covered, and the climbs are jam-packed between the 121 and 252 kilometre point. So in something like 80 miles, they have to go up 16 of these very short, sharp leg-sapping climbs, and the Tchmil was the first one. We had an early breakaway about that point when Wim Omloop, who was the Belgian amateur champion last year, managed to get away and took advantage of some pretty ghastly conditions. They'd have been chucking it down with rain. It was awful for the first hour, and most of the riders were a bit disgusted by it all. In fact, at the start, they had their racing capes on and their winter woolies almost. You can see some of his arm warmers. See the blackness there on the young lad's arms. That's where he's put his arm warmers down now. This morning they got the arm warmers on, and the racing capes for that first 1 hour of riding. And then once Wim Omloop and Zanata had been caught, then the field more or less kept together until we started to attack the climbs that followed in quick succession, the Vieux-Cramont, the Patersburg, and then the Kreuzberg and Bosnaberg. They began to wear down the riders. This little group slipped away and began to split the thing up. Commiserations go out to Van den Bosch, who went in an awful crash, by the way. The TVM rider offended himself in the early part of the race when the riders were sort of wall to wall, really. They got most of the 23 teams of 8 riders shoulder to shoulder, and as often happens in bike racing, just a touch of wheels and down he went, and I don't think he's actually continuing that at the moment. But if he was, he has no chance of featuring in the podium. These riders you're looking at now, undoubtedly, I'm sure, are going to be the ones to survive the finish. But we've seen amazing things happen in the past. That 2-minute gap is still there. So it could be whittled down if there's a concerted chase, but with so many of the riders here with teammates behind blocking, I think they are likely to stay away. So we're going to take a commercial break shortly, and we'll come back to more action from this Tour of Flanders. And this group here, I think right now quite happy with the gap they've got, but between they surely can't wait for the sprint finish when we get up there at the end of this race. 261 kilometres in all. There's got to be some action coming up on some of these climbs yet remaining ahead of them. Some great climbs, particularly the last two, the Meerbeke and the Bosberg. So taking the line, there they go, and we're going to be off and back with you shortly. And I hope they get the finish sorted out before they get here, by the way, because they're having all sorts of trouble with the Finnish gantry. It's fallen down, and there's some great deal of activity going on to hoist the thing up. Hope we don't have another problem like we did with the Milan San Remo when the lead car went across the line, slammed its brakes on because the crowd was spilling out into the finish area, and the riders ran into the back of it with a clatter and a bang. But we should wait and see. I'm sure they get sorted out before then, because these riders still 48 kilometres to go, something around about an hour and a bit of racing ahead of them. And there's some pretty good operators down there too. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and the team tactics between the Wordperfect teams and the GBMG boys is going to be quite fascinating. And good to see on the front there. In fact, he's moved back a bit now, Bottaro from Mecair. I'm surprised that he's putting so much work in the front. He should really, I think, sit in there and let the rest do the activity, because he is the lesser light of that lot. Let's take him from the top here. Pulling over now, that's Maassen. Moving through in the colours of the Pistor team is Marc Sergent. There in the white with the Lampre on the back and the stripes of the World Cup leader is Maurizio Fondriest. On his wheel is Ballerini of the GBMG team. I'm just waiting to see who comes through next in line. Nobody seems to want to do the work at all, so we'll have to drop further back down the line. Ballerini says enough's enough, and the camera picks up then in the blue jersey Van Hooydonck, behind him Museeuw, and then we come back further down. There's Sciandri having just nipped past Bottaro. So these are the riders, some 8 of them now, on whom all hope rests, I think, of surviving to the finish, with the chasers still behind them, some over 2 minutes back. Here we are then, that's knock 3, that's 3 of the climbs yet to go. We've got 16 of them in all, and the last 2 are absolute cliffhangers, and I'm sure that's where the sort out's going to come, but we've seen strange things happening in bike racing before that, so I better keep my big feet out of my mouth. All size 12s of them. Here we are, 1,700 metres of cobbles ahead of them, the bone-shattering cobbles that Belgium is so well known for. I suppose that if you actually had to employ people to ride bikes like this who weren't interested in racing cycles, they'd go on strike, because it would be inhuman to make you do things like this, ride over these cobbles after being in the saddle for well over 6 hours, and every bone in your body is trying to make you stop and have a rest, and somebody routes the race which takes you over these cobbles, which really do nothing more than drive pain through your body. So they try and find, see here, a little bit of a smoother part of the course, and the spectators, as ever, standing well back, because they know that they're just as likely to switch onto the pavement given half a chance. And Sciandri's beginning to struggle. Is that just a moment when he's having a rest? See, on the left-hand side, see how they're searching for the smoother tarmac. There is a skill to riding under these conditions, that they have to come out and train over this course. And I was talking to Alan Piper during the week, who went round the course with the Lampre team, and particularly Maurizio Fondriest, who's a personal friend of his, and they've been spending time out riding along the course, looking for the best line, looking for where the attacks might come, learning a bit more about the whole problems of racing over these cobbles. And Alan actually gave me a dark horse as being Sorensen to win the race today. Well, he's not with this group at all, but I know that he said that rather than trying to tip his personal friend Maurizio Fondriest, who is in this group at the moment. So we keep our fingers crossed for him, winner of the Milan-San Remo last week. Undoubtedly the Italians on a high, but they've not been very successful in this race, except for Marino Argentin, who won in 1990. They go back a long time to Zandego in 1967 when the Italians won before. So Jackie Durand's amazing performance last year to go away with Wegmuller and Herwich and Patrick Rolland has not been repeated this year. All the star performers put the block on anybody, clopping off like they did last year. That four-man breakaway group had an 11-minute lead at one time last year, and ended up with Jackie Durand winning it, and he wears number 1 this year, riding for the Castorama team. He's way back down the field somewhere, but as he said, it's a great honour to start with number 1, even if you haven't got a catch chance in hell of winning. So there we are, 2:45 back to the group, and a lot of other riders even further back than that. Just look at the state of the roads. Well, this is really hard man's bike racing territory, and it's a hard man that's driven this thing apart. Sterling work by Sean Yates further back down. When we were watching the transmission earlier on, he was going very hard on the front. He even went away on a small break too, and I think that provided the stepping stone for Sciandri to be with this one. And I understand that Sean, who was thinking about retiring at the end of this year, decided to give it another whack. I hope that he can get a sponsor with the Motorola team folding up, because he wants to ride in Great Britain when we have the Tour de France next year, going from Dover through some very scenic countryside, including Canterbury, on roads that have been closed for 2.5 hours ahead of the race, through into the finish in Brighton, going up Ditchling Beacon and up that Wilson Drive, well known to followers of the classic there that Alan Rushton has been organising, the Sport for Television, and they're going to get the race on British roads. I think that Sean would like to take part on his old training grounds. He comes from the south side of London, and to see what he could do there on those familiar roads. 2 stages, the second one going from Brighton, looping round to Portsmouth, so that's something for British fans to look forward to. But right now, it's virtually the Italians versus the rest, isn't it? There we are, one of the Belgian hopes, Edwig van Hooydonck, disappointed last year, now with 42 kilometres to go, and he finished in 3rd place, having missed that break of Durand and Wegmuller. Thomas Wegmuller was going to come and join us in the commentary point, but I don't quite know what happened. But I can tell you that Thomas, unfortunately, is having some problems at the moment with his red corpuscles. There's instructions here to Van Hooydonck, who's not looking too good. He does not look to me like he's all that happy. He's been blasting away at the front so long, and now I think he's beginning to struggle just a bit. And Hilaire van der Schuren, the deputy team manager, having a quiet chat to him then, and he's been involved in cycle racing, his team manager from way back 1982, and here one of the best dressed manager in the business there in a suit, having a chat to Johan Capiot, who still wants, I think, another chat with his team manager. Well, they've got to sort the tactics out between them here, because they've got Ballerini, who's anyway, he's going up to have a chat to him, I think. Yep. Right, so Museeuw wants some decision, presumably on who is going to be the number 1 at the moment. One thing about the MGGB team is that they have got so many good riders in the squad, and they actually rotate who is the team leader depending on the state they're in. And Museeuw and Ballerini right now have got to perhaps get some guidance from the team manager who's going to be allowed to be the attacker and the domestique. Cipollini was up with the 30-man group that's just behind them for some time, so they got 3 men very strongly up there before this thing split, and now they've got 2 riders away, and the tactics will be very much down to 2 individual riders. But if the team manager wants to have his own say, they've got to listen to what he says and accept his decision. Marc Sergent, quick look at him, and that gives you some idea of the cavalcade that follows the race. Coming up now towards the feeding station. Maximilian taking his food on board in what we call the Offie bag, named after Sir Hubert Offerman, who used to ride in Great Britain before the war. And I don't know if he designed the bag, but for some reason or other, the Brits call it the Offie bag. I think he was probably the first to start using it, and we all followed him on from there onwards. But it's also known as the musette in France. And so they know the food's being stuffed in the back pockets, and the drink's taken out too, likewise. And Fondriest having a munch on his food he's just collected. There, Ballerini looking remarkably cool, calm and collected. Behind him, Sejean. You just wouldn't think, would you, look at this lot? They've been actually racing now for getting towards 6 hours in the saddle. And they come across some really diabolical countryside at great rate of knots, averaging well over 25 miles an hour. The first hour when it was very cold and miserable and wet. And here we are now with under 2 kilometres to go. That's 25 miles in English language. And we're going to concentrate on these because the report's coming. There's no way I think that chasing group now, well over 2 minutes down, are going to catch up with them. So let's watch the tactics that will evolve. They're 2:35. I knew it was going further and further back, and I can tell you they're going to be out the frame now unless this lot decide to get off the bikes and have a quick cup of coffee in the cafe down the road. But that is not going to happen, believe you me. There's points at stake in the World Cup with Fondriest, the leader, with 50 points at the moment. An interview being conducted down there with the team car for Histor, presumably trying to get the inside track on what Marc Sargent might be up to. The Histor team now, that's Histor Nova Mail laser team. In fact, they ride Nova Mail when they're riding in France, Histor when they're riding outside France. It's a paint company, and Laser are their co-sponsors. And Marc Sargent is in this little group. There he goes through on the far side, the blue jersey with the red sleeves. We saw Peter Post at the start this morning, as ever. What a man for enthusiasm. He's been in this game so many years now. He's the director sportif of the whole of the squad. He sends out Plancart, Willie Plancart, as the manager on the road. And in fact, Joe Plancart, his nephew, is actually racing further back in this group. Sciandri having a quick look at the distance yet to go. He's got a calculator there. You see that little computer on his handlebars, which will show him how far they've covered so far. And he can also, if he wants to do, work out his average speed. I don't think he'll be bothered about that. He just wants to know how far it is to go to the finish. And also what they do look for, of course, is the profile of the course. And they're the Lampre car. That's the team that Fondriest rides for. And that's a rundown on the riders. See all those green, white and red colours against the Belgians and the Dutch riders. So there's quite an interesting little combination here of teams and nationalities. Everybody seems to be sharing the work at the moment, so perhaps they decide they must keep the thing away. Oh yes, here we are. I tell you, we've been having trouble down the finishing straight to sort out this banner and the gantry, which doesn't seem to want to go into position properly. I suppose looking at the clock, they've probably got less than the hour now to make sure the thing is up in place at the right time. And these are lads that we're only looking forward to very welcome that finish line, but who's going to be there first of all? Looking back over the winners in recent years, and in fact way back to 1961, Tom Simpson won this race in 61, and in 1963 he took a third spot. Sean Kelly, he's had a couple of second place in this one in 1984, in 86 and 87 he also featured in second place, but Sean not in this little group at the moment, so he's way back in that main pack, who probably some of them taking a shortcut back, because this race has a complete circle more or less. From its start point, the fairly flat start to begin with as they circle around the north side of the course, and then it gets this up and down, and here we are with the crowd not yet in place for the finish, so perhaps some chaps here with a bit of muscle can help push this finish gantry up into position. I've got a bit of time. Is there a man in the house with a screwdriver or a spanner? I asked myself. Well, they found somebody anyway. We'll be all right, I'm sure about that. Plenty of time yet to go. So these riders heading on in toward the finish now. We're going to take a short break, and I hope you come back to us, because this one really is turning out to be yet another cracker on this round 2 of the World Cup 1990. Welcome back then to the Tour of Flanders. This the 77th edition of this great race, starting way back in 1913, and the course pretty well the same in recent years, just a few changes made to it, and you can see here those little grey lumps there are not lumps of coal, they are in fact the cobbles, just to show you where they're going to be hitting some of this rough stuff that will sort them out as they bounce over the terrain. The race, actually, quite amazingly really, it's been run every year during the Second World War, believe it or not. It actually stopped in 1914 and restarted in 1919, so the First World War they stopped the race, but in the second one it went on right the way through the Second World War, so it's got enormous continuity since 1913, and as I said earlier, dominated by the Belgians, who won it 56 times, and right now they must be rather happy to have Museeuw in this at the moment, and Van Hooydonck, giving the Belgians every chance perhaps of repeating that, but the Italians, I think, are going to be in with a shout, and Frans Maassen for Holland also not. Johan Capiot there having a chat to Maximilian Sciandri. Jim looking for a new sponsor following the withdrawal of Motorola's money, and he's got some great riders. We saw earlier on this morning when we were watching the early stuff coming through with Lance Armstrong trying hard as well. He's a great prospect, and I know that Jim wants to keep you like Lance Armstrong and Andy Hampson in whatever team he takes forward to next year, and we wish him the best of luck. The problems of the economy hitting bicycle racing as well. People cutting back on expenditure in all directions, and a lot of pros out of work, but nevertheless certainly providing here good value for money for some of the sponsors who got this group of riders, 8 of them away, representing what, some 6 teams. Spectators as ever out in most unexpected places, and thank goodness the weather has turned out fine with so many of them coming out here in their Sunday best. You get the experts. Well, there seems to be the heavy gangs now turned up to erect the gantry, which has collapsed slightly. I remember once that one of the oh, you can't do it on your own, sir. I think you're going to need Rambo or somebody to come and help you. And they've probably still got about, what, 35 minutes to do it. Anyway, this race that's heading in towards the finish that might have been moved down the road. I remember once in the Tour of Ireland when we had some trouble with the finishing grandstands, but and in the milk race many years ago, when there was such a downpour of rain, it was the day when Fedder and Hertog won the stage into Bournemouth. It rained so much that the cliff face slipped away and covered the finishing straight with sand and mud and so on, and we couldn't actually get down to the actual banner further on down, so an impromptu finish was pulled further up the run-in towards the Bournemouth front alongside the beach, and he came in triumphantly victor to a sort of impromptu finish line, but it didn't really matter, there was nobody there, it was just so bad the weather that none of the officials turned up. 34 kilometres to go, and a big crowd waiting to see who's going to win this one, and Frans Maassen here doing a very good job, just sitting behind his teammate Edwig van Hooydonck, who really, of this little group here, in performance terms, has undoubtedly the best success list. First in 89, first in 91, and third last year. Tricky stuff this. You can see why they're glad it's not raining. This is very awful conditions if it does get wet. And toward the third place is Dag-Otto Lauritzen, was third in 1989. He's actually started today as well. He's joined the TVM team, who haven't got a man in this break, and is riding one of the Kirk magnesium frame bicycles, and in fact his total contract is being paid by Norsk Hydro. They are the people who supply the magnesium which is used in the Kirk frame. In fact, if memory serves me correct, they actually owned the Kirk business out in Saffron Walden, and he started on one of the frames, and at 36 years of age it was a bold venture to come back at this stage, but the Norwegian Cycling Federation want him to be back in action because of course the World Championships are going to be held in Norway this year, and we'll be covering them on Eurosport as well, so every reason why he should be back in action. And in fact he's already shown good form as Dag-Otto Lauritzen, who used to ride for the Motorola team. He won a stage, the first stage in fact, in the 3 days of De Pin, so that was quite, I think, used a bit of publicity for his sponsors. Have you look through there to see, whoops, there goes the horses. Always a real problem, they get frightened by the noise, but they haven't managed to get out of the field. Ballerini riding it at the front, keeping the pace up. Maassen doing the same, Museeuw going through. Sciandri following from Motorola, then Van Hooydonck, and at the back Fondriest. They all seem to be sharing the work at the moment. This race sponsored by Hit Nieuwsblad, on the Belgian national newspaper. You saw that yellow car behind the group, that was the sponsor's official car. There's plenty to write about in this one too. Although the Belgians are outnumbered, they certainly know this course very well indeed. Well, that's our camera helicopter that helps pick the action up for you. No doubt about it that since the advent of helicopters and connections to the motorcycle, we get some tremendous pictures. 2 minutes 21 seconds, and the Belgian cameramen are extremely good to picking up the action. And those of you who saw the Het Volcom cameraman got ended when the motorcycle rider clipped the curb, I can tell you that both of them are okay, that there was no damage done. I had a word with Paul Dore before we started the programme today, and he said, yep, they're okay after that crash. I think they're a bit shaken by what went on, but nevertheless, they're okay. Well, they're pouring on the coals now on the faster part of the course, because here we are with Flanders, the next climb ahead of them. This will be the 14th climb of the day. And these are the parts of the course where the chasers could in fact whittle away some of the advantage. 151 there drifting across, that's Maurizio Fondriest here, Ballerini just going through, that's Sergent for Histor drifting back. There is the rider who must really think his day has been made by being in such illustrious company, Bottaro of the Mecair team. And that gives you some idea of the climb that they've got to go up. Doesn't look very much, does it? 900 metres at 7.2%, and 765 metres height to actually climb, but it's just leg staffing stuff when you've been in the saddle as long as these riders have, and they've just got to watch each other too, because this climb, it's the last, but the two more to come, the Muur and then the Bosberg, and I suspect now that one or two will begun to try and see who's the strongest in the group. We've covered some 232 kilometres of the 261 to be covered, some 30 odd kilometres to go, and they must be trying now to see who's got any left in his legs. As ever, the enthusiastic crowd that zigzag backwards and forwards across this part of Belgium to watch the race in action. You see people here, well-dressed Sunday clothes, ladies with their stiletto heels on and their best dresses, and all turned out to have a good day watching the racing. It's such a national sport here in Belgium. Nobody worries about the fact that roads are closed and people descend upon. Let's look at that crowd. Well, they've read about this race in their newspapers all week, and of course a race that goes back something like 80 years now, got tremendous history about it, and every young schoolboy knows in Belgium when he starts out about the performances of the Belgian bike riders over the years, and so many of them want to become top pros. That's why there's such a tremendous number of talent that's come out of Belgium over the years. But cycling has just become so international now, they can't dominate it quite as much as they used to do. But when it comes to racing on their own muck heap, I can tell you they still take some beating. And look at this lot now, it's beginning to split a bit. Sciandri's having to hang on. Ballerini behind him. Well, a little bit of gap opened up, but I think it was perhaps just an easement on Sciandri's part. Bottaro at the back, being sensible, I think, in sitting in the wheels, letting the rest of them do the work. Yeah, see them freewheeling on this descent. Also, as ever, once you get past about the third man in a break like this, you can just freewheel. See, they're pedalling on the front, and this draft then behind them. Oh, it's come down. No wonder the speed has gone up, as our helicopter, in fact, is below the height of the motorcycle for a change. The speed has shot up because the bunch are closing down. I thought at one time that it was goodbye, and that group over 2.5 minutes down behind them. We're going to have to contest the sprint for 9th place, but they've decided to put some pressure on, and the only possible hope for these riders then is that it narrows down a bit further along the route, and perhaps that may take some of the sting out of the chaser, but they are cutting back the gap now. Look at the faces. That's a sure sign when riders been to stock. You look at the faces, see how they go. Maassen looks okay, so does Museeuw going through. Fondriest relaxed. Oh, that was dangerous. The skill of these bike riders, they've got sort of instantaneous reaction, because although they train on the course on them, particularly Fondriest out with my friend Alan Piper during the week, they can't know every part of the course like that, but very quickly they saw their way around it and they're back out of trouble, travelling at somewhere steady around about 25 miles an hour. And still yet no sign of weakness in this little group. There must be questions being asked in their own mind about what the tactic is going to be between now and the finish, as to whether they've got to wait for the last 2 big climbs before they put the pressure on. And there is confirmation of that breakaway group. That's Sciandri just going through. That's Museeuw in the background having a chat with his team manager. Yeah, I thought the team managers must be coming up to try and give these lads some assistance in tactics. Ballerini looks very good too, doesn't he? And Fondriest. There doesn't look to be pain amongst any of these riders at the moment. They're still all very comfortable. The gap's gone to 2:04. I think they may still hang on, but we'll have to wait and see. Join us after the break. And a little gap opening up here at the front. High-speed chase going on as Maassen it is, who pries his way off the front with Museeuw just behind him. And the joker in the pack, Bottaro from the Mecair team on his wheel, but they've closed it back down again. I just had a quick look at last year's finish result, by the way, because we talked about earlier on about Jackie Durand being a surprise winner ahead of Thomas Begmuller, but the gallop came in from behind. Van Hooydonck was in 3rd place, Fondriest was 4th, and Maassen was 5th, so 3 of the riders that finished in the top 5 are in this group at the moment, and Franco Ballerini, who's also with them now, finished in 9th place last year, and Marc Sergent, who is here in this group, finished 15th last year. So we've got some very, very good riders. They're starting to attack. It's Museeuw that's gone, and Maassen's after him. The gap's open up. Sciandri doesn't want to respond. If they don't get up there, these two are going away now, and this looks like the decisive move as Museeuw really powers up this climb. Nobody's answering this one. Fondriest must go. Van Hooydonck won't chase for Wordperfect because his teammate's gone up there at the front, and here we are at the front. Museeuw has made the break, and Maassen is desperately trying to claw his way up to his back wheel. Well, that was a superb move on that climb. Not one of the significant mountains of this race, but one that was just enough to split this little group. And they look too nonchalant to me, so surely somebody's got to turn the wick up a bit to pull those two back. Who's going to chase? Dead away, these two. Let's put the watch on them. Waiting for the chasers to come around that corner. And that is quite surprising. Here they come now, and that's the point where we made the check. And it is in fact 12 seconds according to my unofficial time check here. And that in itself is quite useful. In fact, they make it 16 officially and 1:58 back because the group are coming up. It was one time 2.5 minutes. It's now inside 2. The chase is on. Perhaps these two recognise and realise that if they didn't wind that 8-man pack up, that the seconds that they had, 2.5 minutes down to 2, and then now less than 2 on the main group, was such they might be reeled in. So they've gone and they've caused some consternation here, and they begin to chase them down. They can see them on the long straight stretches. Those 2 seconds is not enough for them to be out of sight, out of mind. Well, 2 riders who aren't going to chase down that leading group are the GBMG rider Ballerini, and also at the moment I don't expect any action to come from Van Hooydonck. There he is. In fact, he's going to leave gaps, if anything, to try and slow it down, because his teammate Frans Maassen has gone down the road. And there you have it. The leading two, some substantial gap now. It's gone probably up to a thick end of 20 seconds, I suppose. They're going now like bullets from a gun. And I think that Museeuw and Maassen have decided that they might as well get settled in and stick it out together and take it in turns. Well, certainly when we looked way back down the road at the face of Edwig and Hooydonck when they closed up with the camera, I thought he looked a bit as if he was taking a bit of a pasting. He'd done so much work earlier. Maassen had just been riding for him, closing gaps down, sitting in the wheels, working with his teammate, and obviously just managed to keep a little bit back in reserve to answer that charge from Museeuw, who the bookies had got in Belgium, by the way, as the likely winner of this race. So if Museeuw charged over the line, I don't know what short odds he's got, but I suspect that there wouldn't be a big payout, because Museeuw had been tipped very strongly in the Belgian press as being a winner of this race, and we'll have to wait and see what happened. At least the bookies had to pay something out, unlike the Grand National in Great Britain yesterday, when on Saturday they had that fiasco of 2 false starts, and in the end, well, some £73 million worth of money that had been staked was to no avail. Well, the money's on that man in the black, yellow and red, Johan Museeuw, champion of Belgium, and right now the bookies must be wondering if they got the odds right. They're both concerned about that group behind them, and of course you can't see back very easily through the motorcycles, and until they get a gap of some 30 seconds and they're allowed to have a service car in between them, they must also be worried and hoping that nothing happens mechanically which causes them to drop back. There we are, it's back to 21 seconds and 1:58, still the main group, what's left of it, are about the same behind them. Bottaro with a very, very laid back saddle position. Quite interesting when I've been reading so much about these top pros now that are sitting with 72-degree seats and the saddle's quite well back. The days of getting cranked up over the bracket and sort of 74-degree frame seem to be disappearing. They're going for the more relaxed position, longer top tubes, sitting further back, and you can understand why the distance they have to travel. They need a more comfortable riding position. And of course, Van Hooydonck here with his bike, you can see that frame, he's got extensions to it because he's about 6'4" and has to have a very special bike with stack heads so that the handlebar stem doesn't rock too much. And again, another tall fellow, Fondriest, he's going to be in the sort of just under 6 foot mark. Up, this is the fellow 6'4" thereabouts. Well, look, see how his handlebar stem is sticking way out of the frame. He's got extensions there on the head and in the column to make sure it's nice and rigid. Marc Sergent, 6 times finished in the first 10 in this race. Previous champion of Belgium, and of course the current champion of Belgium has gone off down the road now. Sciandri on the front. And here we are, that little box in the right hand corner of your screen are the 2 escapers. Maassen on the front, then Museeuw moving through in that little box, and down here it's going to be a bit of a League of Nations battle here, isn't it? Because we've got the lad from Mecair here, Bottaro on the front, then Fondriest, so that's another Italian rider's going through. And with Marc Sergent riding for his stall, although he's a Belgian, he's going to work for his team, and he might well then be prepared to help the Italians. And here we are, Sciandri. So we've got 3 Italians here. If you look down that little list, the one of them, Ballerini, is not going to help because he rides for GBMG. So there's every chance they can pull back those 2 at the front, because at this moment, although they ride for independent different teams, you can see they've, yes, a little touch pushing Sciandri back in again, Bottaro. He didn't want Van Hooydonck to come through because he knows Van Hooydonck would not contribute, and so the 4 on the front, doing their own personal team time trial, are going to carry these 2 riders behind them, who both got a man in the breakaway group. This is fascinating stuff. This is a team time trial, 2 passengers behind, 2 up in front. And ahead of them, the big Muir at 248 kilometres, and Bosberg, which has been so often in the past the one when the chips were finally thrown down after 252 kilometres. They've got to keep the pressure up. Sciandri looks back. Fondriest moves through. Then Bottaro. And these are the 2 leaders. Now with the neutral service car behind, the gap then something over 30 seconds. So they are, in fact, despite that 4-man team time trial behind, they're beginning to prize their way forward. The telephoto lens foreshortening that shot off our helicopter. What a great shot that is. Lovely, the trees, the sun, the shadows of the bike riders. And 2 more climbs yet to come. Well, you can see it yourself, 20 kilometres left in this race. That's just about 13 miles. And that will go in no time at all. And as any bike rider knows, getting towards the end of a race, you just have to say, well, how can I judge my strength? Can I just get there and virtually fall off my bike having exhausted everything? If you go too soon, too hard, too fast, and blow up, then it's all to no avail. Judgment now, everything relies upon your sheer judgment of your capabilities and how much strength you've got left, or what reserves you can draw on just to get that bit more power on the pedals. There's so much at stake, you know, just to win a classic. It's something that you can talk to the grandkids about later in life, and to have your name there go down the history books forever. Classic winners, they just can reflect upon it, and those who win them several times on the trot are absolute giants. And Van Hooydonck must be worried now, because he would dearly love, I think, to have got his name up there as a 3-time winner, but it's not going to be so unless this group can pull back those leaders. But he didn't look too good last time I saw him. 3 victories have gone to Boyce of Belgium in 1940, 41, 43, Magny of Italy, 49, 50 and 51, Le Mans of Belgium, 70, 72 and 73. So only a handful of riders have had the triple in this one. And now with the gap at 38 seconds, Van Hooydonck, I think, has got to say goodbye to that. But you never know. Museeuw, Maassen, there'll be every attempt, I think, for those two to stay away, and there they are working together now, but if they fall out and lose power, anything can happen. Are our two leaders, only 7 kilometres left to go. Heading in towards the finish, we've been up over the big climbs and they've managed to stay away. This is epic stuff from these two, and the chasers absolutely flattened by the pressure that they've been put under. Now it looks as if the sprint is going to be between these two riders, just some 35 seconds separating them. The sun beating down on their backs, and the welcome thought there's not far to go towards the finish. And the big question mark is, of these two, who has got the most stamina left in his legs? Well, Museeuw on his Bianchi bike here, Belgian on an Italian bike, and here a Dutchman also on an Italian bike on the Colagos. These two riders now still a bit concerned about the chase. They needn't be so, because that 38 seconds means they should be able to hang on towards the finish. But we've seen it before, when two men are away like this, that they begin to finesse and the chasers come at them very, very quickly indeed. And there are our chasers then splitting under the pressure. The four-man time trial that has been taking place to try and pull them back is now splintered, and they just cannot pull back those two. So strong they are. Ballerini moving up on the inside, and he's starting to attack too, because the gap is such that possibly, if he doesn't get up to his teammate, he might go for third place as well. And the Mecair rider drifting off there, Bottaro, he's been hanging on right the way through the last few kilometres. He's been yo-yoing off the back, getting back, hanging on, getting in there, and he's still with them. Ballerini is not happy. Come on, he says, Sciandri. Well, I don't quite know what he's concerned about, because his teammate is up in front. That I can't quite comprehend. Ballerini has no reason to want to pump this thing along, except I presume what he wants to try and do is catch back these two up in front, because Edwig van Hooydonck's got a new lease of life. Sciandri's drifted off as well, so the gap there with Sajon is considerable. Sajon's starting to charge away, perhaps he's the danger man, because van Hooydonck is cooked now. The big long tall fellow with the enormously long legs is now, I think, absolutely blunted. Ballerini recognised the danger, and that's why he wants to get across there. And I think he's trying to get Fondriest to help him put the lid on this one, but I don't quite know why, because Fondriest has just got to stay close and try and finish in third place if they don't catch the two leaders, to preserve that jersey he's wearing now. He is the leader. The fellow there with the black shorts and the pink stripe down his trousers, Maurizio Fondriest, winner of the Milan-San Remo last weekend, 2 weeks ago, is the leader in the World Cup, and these are the two they're trying to chase down. Let me have a quick look now at the result of the Milan-San Remo to see where these two were. In fact, they're no great challenge at all. They didn't score any points, either of them. As we go back to the chasing group here, Fondriest was first, got 50 points, Sciandri got 25, and Ballerini, who was 7th in the Milan-San Remo, got 14 points. So these two up in front now, whilst they may be going for the success, the win on this, the 77th Tour of Flanders, the World Cup jersey may well stand, say, on the shoulders of Maurizio Fondriest if he can finish in the top half dozen places. We'll have to wait and see. Well, Frans Maassen up there, Jan Raas must be very pleased. The Wordperfect team had a disappointing start this season with a lot of sickness, and Erik van der Aarden's just come in good form, winning a race this last week or so, and it began to put them up there. They won 3 other minor races, the Wordperfect team, but right now they must be pleased to have Maassen away in this little breakaway group after Van Hooydonck early on had driven this field so hard. Well, he's back again. I'm actually staggered. Bottaro there in the blue and yellow on the front. He's been yo-yoing off, and now he's got himself back in there yet again. He's doing a great ride, I must say that these two riders here have got their own little private battle ahead of them, but as far as they're concerned, perhaps they thought of a sprint finish, and undoubtedly Museeuw has got to be in with a shout, because if you look back in the last year, won 9 races as such, and He's a very, very fast finisher indeed, Johan Museeuw, wearing the Belgian National Championships jersey. He won stages in the Ruta del Sol, and the races he always won were those where he could surge out and use his tremendous sprint finish. And of course, those people who saw him in the Kellogg's Pro Tour, him winning a stage into Lincoln at a tremendous rate of knots. So he's in with a shout, and here they are chasing him down still as Sargent on the front is beginning to stretch this little lot too. And Ballerini looks like he's a shop steward. He doesn't seem to like what's going on. He keeps sort of gesticulating and shouting to the rest of them. I don't quite know what he's up to, because his teammates up the front, I thought he'd be quite happy to have sat in there and coasted along a bit. Oops, they've got rid of the Mecair rider again. I think that's the last time we're going to see him, Bottaro. And back up at the front here, well, Frans Maassen in the blue and white. 39 seconds, must be wondering what he's got to do. He's got a fair old turn of speed. I remember when he won the Wincanton Classic in Newcastle, he came up the finishing straight, a great rate of knots, very strong rider indeed, and he's gone. I mean, the Yoda off the back, Bottaro of Mecair, see him down the road there. He's nipped up the inside, but the rest were all watching each other. He's popped off down the road. And these two, not concerned about the chase behind now, just settling in to ride steadily in toward the finish. I suppose that Frans Maassen, quite a good year last year, what about half a dozen wins. In fact, he won a race in Maastricht, and that's a town, I suppose, to be conjured up. And as they're getting in now towards the finish, is he going to win this one? That's Maassen at the back, Museeuw on the front. Ex-champion of Holland, Frans Maassen, ex-leader in the World Cup, against the Belgian national champion now, Museeuw. Both of them pretty good sprinters, but Maassen, I think, likes to go a lot further out than Museeuw. Museeuw's got that surge. He keeps looking back now to see where the chasers are. Museeuw would like to keep the lid on this one until they get within about 300 or 400 metres, I would have thought. Maassen doing the right thing by getting on his wheel and perhaps trying to fox him and go for a long one. Frans Maassen now, look at him. He's in the best place. Museeuw realises that. They cannot play cat and mouse too much and wait. They've got to keep the pressure up, just keep rolling forward. Maassen is doing exactly the right thing, and Museeuw must be wondering what he's got to do. And here comes the chasers, and they're not going for it. If only they wound it up as Sargent goes. And they should surely put a lot more pressure on this one, because these two up in front now are completely worried about the lead out. Quite rightly, Museeuw is concerned about Maassen's surge of speed. A stage win the Tour de France, Frans Maassen. And as they come now, he's left it too late though. I think Maassen probably would have liked to go for a longer one than that, and this will suit Museeuw on the left-hand side. They come in towards the last 150 metres. Museeuw unleashes his superb sprint. 100 metres to go. Museeuw for Belgium is going to get this one rocketing to the line. Maassen can't get past him. He's got it. That's a win for Belgium. Brilliant piece of bike riding by Museeuw to go from the front, beating Maassen there, and behind those rest of the chasers now sprinted all over the place. Let's see who's going to get third place. They've got the banner up, thank goodness, and it is none other than Bottaro, the Mecair rider, has slipped the net. What a great performance. He cannot believe it. He's in third place, having taken advantage of the rest of them, and a shaking of the head here that looks like Marc Sargent coming in. I don't think he was too happy with that. The run-in was an absolute mess as far as this chasing group was concerned, and from the sprint behind, Sciandri is in there on the left-hand side, the blue and the red, and behind him Ballerini tries to come past him. Ballerini, no, it has to be, I think, just behind him, and Fondriest behind him. So a quick calculation of the old points, I think Fondriest has probably done just enough. And here comes the chasing group as well. Shows you how the gap was coming down towards the end, as Ludwig then charging towards the front. It's Ludwig taking the 9th spot. Ludwig in 9th, Capiot in 10th. I think that was Yekimov back in about 11th or 12th. What an exciting finish. See how close they came towards the end, because these two were finessing on the run-in. They lost a lot of time, but there's still enough there for Museeuw to punch his way to the line and to give Belgium yet another win. And this is going